and the baby is formed. So it will come out. It will be delivered out. Okay? And the stem cells remain in the placenta. This is the one that are being utilized by, for so long, has been utilized by world leaders, the stem cell therapy, and it's quite expensive. It is 1.5 million. And then the doctor say, now this time you patient, you need 5 injections. It depends on the status of the patient. Can you imagine that? How much you will pay? Yes. Because they are leaders. Now, the body is made up of compartments. With the human body has trillion cells. And it is divided into compartments. The body, the fluid inside the blood vessels are the plasma and the blood cells. And there are also fluid outside the blood vessels. And that is your extracellular fluid. Inside the blood vessels, that is your intracellular fluid. But this plasma is not intracellular. It is inside the cells. The intracellular fluid is made up of 2/3 of total body fluid. The extras. Can you make notice if you cannot hear me?
Doc, choppy. Sometimes your voice is choppy po.
Yeah, because the internet here is unstable.
Okay, sige.
Please make notice if I am off. Di na ko marinig, ha? Okay. So, the intracellular fluid makes up 2/3 of your total body fluid. Intra, that means inside the cells, okay? Extracellular, outside the cells. It is made up of 1/3 of your total body fluid. It is made up of your plasma and the interstitial fluid. The interstitial fluid is the extracellular fluid outside the blood vessels and found around and between the cells. So 3/4 of your extracellular fluid. You have to memorize this. Your extracellular fluid is 1/3 of your total body fluid. Your intracellular fluid is total body fluid. Your extracellular fluid, consider internal environment. It is made up of your plasma, the fluid outside the blood vessels and around and between cells. Okay, so you have to memorize that. Extracellular fluid differs from that of your intracellular fluid in composition. For cells to function optimally, the condition of the extracellular fluid must not vary greatly from its it is the extracellular fluid that is maintained by homeostatic control mechanism. What do you mean by homeostasis? It means the maintenance of nearly constant condition in the internal environment of the cells. What is the internal environment? The extracellular fluid. Does uh, is plasma included in the extracellular fluid? Yes, it is. And so this is the normal composition of your extracellular and intracellular fluid. As you notice, wala yung arrow ko. Again, as my arrow is lost. Now, as you notice, in the extracellular fluid, the sodium is 142 milliequivalents. Inside the cell, it's only 10 milliequivalents. And it is opposite with your potassium, 4 milliequivalents, while inside the cell, potassium is 140 milliequivalents per liter. Calcium is higher in the extracellular fluid, while that of the intracellular fluid is very low. And outside, it's 2.4 milliequivalents, while inside the cell, it's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 to the minus 4 milliequivalents per liter. And magnesium inside the cell is, ay nabala yung arrow ko. Later na lang. You notice that magnesium is 58 inside and only 1.2 outside. And chloride is 103 milliequivalents outside and only 4 milliequivalents inside the cell. So what are the things, what are the components that are high in the extracellular fluid? You have your sodium, calcium, chloride, bicarbonates, amino acids. Amino acids is plenty in the intracellular fluid. Why do you think it is higher in the intracellular fluid, your amino acids? 200 milligrams per deciliter. Also, your cholesterol, phospholipids, and neutral fat is plenteous inside the cell. PCO2 Why? Because you notice 200 milligrams per deciliter of your amino acids. Why? Because inside the cell, metabolism takes place. There is the synthesis, production of energy inside the cells. So the cell needs plenty of amino acids. And also, you notice that your PCO2, your CO2 inside the cells is 50 millimeters mercury. Why? Because your CO2 is a product of metabolism, right? When the cell utilizes oxygen for energy production, what is your energy? Adenosine triphosphate, your ATP. When the cell utilizes oxygen for metabolism, the byproduct of metabolism is carbon dioxide. So that's why it is higher inside the cell, 50 millimeters of mercury. And why is the pH inside the cell is lower? It is 7, whereas in the extracellular fluid, it is 7.4. Because you notice that it has higher CO2. So CO2 is acidic. So that's why the pH inside the cell is lower than outside. And you notice the protein is 16 or 40 milliequivalents per liter, whereas outside it's only 5. Okay, so that's why, because you need protein. You need protein for energy production, and amino acids. From amino acids, you produce your proteins. Okay, so maintenance of near internal environment of the cell is maintenance of the extracellular fluid. When you say homeostasis, it means the maintenance of the external environment. You have to memorize that. So homeostasis, extracellular fluid. You have your extracellular fluid and the yeah. The plasma and the extracellular fluid outside the cells, they are continually being mixed through the process of fusion. 60% of adult human body is fluid. Okay, I am unstable. My signal now is unstable. Miss Donceras, can you thumbs up if you can hear me properly? Yeah. If you cannot hear me, you also signal me, okay? So where are we? Extracellular fluid, also called the internal environment of the body, or your milieu, interior. It is introduced by the great 19th century physiologist Claire Claude Bernard. So the cells has to be bathed with your extracellular fluid to function properly. Why? Because is diffusion. Diffusion is continuous, the mixing of the components of the nutrition. For example, you notice this one, PCO2, right? 50 millimeters mercury. That is inside the cell. Once it gets into the extracellular fluid from inside the cell, it will go outside to the extracellular fluid. And because it is being diluted, so now from 50, it will become only 46 millimeters of mercury. Upon reaching the lungs, this will lower further your PCO2. It is carried by the blood going to the lungs. And once it reaches the lungs, there is an exchange. The oxygen that is found higher in the lungs, in the lung alveoli, they will move towards the capillary blood. Your carbon dioxide from your outside, it is breathed in, breathe out. Okay, so when you breathe in, that's oxygen. When you exhale, breathe out, you breathe out carbon dioxide. So that is one way to maintain your homeostasis. Also in your kidneys. Your kidneys, their filtration, right? So there is secretion towards the kidney tubules, and later, if the body needs those elements, it will absorb back those elements. So that is another way to maintain the homeostasis of the body. So aside from mixing, you also get nutrition from your extracellular fluid. And your respiratory system, from your respiratory system, you get oxygen and exhale your carbon dioxide. From the gastrointestinal system, you also get nutrition because you eat, right? You eat, you have to nourish yourself. So the food is digested from the stomach and then to the small intestines, and eventually it will be absorbed in the small intestines. And from there, it will go into the extracellular fluid before going into it will go to the lymphatics before it will go to the blood. and find its way into the cells. So that is one way to nourish from your gastrointestinal system. From the respiratory system, you get your oxygen. From the gastrointestinal system, you get your digested food. So you get your, for example, the glucose that is needed by the cells for energy production. You get it from your gastrointestinal tract. So that is one way to maintain your homeostasis. And also your liver. It will perform metabolic functions. And aside from metabolic, and your musculoskeletal system. Why is this included? Because you have to move using your muscles. When you eat, you have to use your hands, right? To put food inside your mouth. Then you chew it. It needs muscles for chewing so that you swallow. You need also your muscles. So that's why this is included. To maintain your homeostasis. Then you nourish, and then your cells will produce energy, okay? In the process of your metabolism, there are also byproducts. So these metabolic end products has to be removed from the body, or else you cannot maintain the homeostasis. Because the tendency, if you will not remove the byproducts, there will be an imbalance of your homeostasis. So the individual will get sick. For example, you have to remove carbon dioxide from the lungs. You have to remove the CO2 from the cells through the, okay? Why do that? Because if you will not remove CO2, your body will become acidic. And there is an imbalance in your metabolism. And so there will be acidosis. The individual will get sick. If this is not corrected, the individual can go into coma and die. So we need to remove the metabolic end products. The kidneys also removes other products of metabolism like urea, uric acid. That's why you notice that if there is no proper elimination of your uric acid in the body, this can cause inflammation, especially in the joints. And that is your arthritis. And when you test, it will be found out that your uric acid is because too much uric acid, and my internet is stable. Can you hear me, Miss Margalio? Just
yes,
thumbs up. Teka, balik tayo. Where are we? From CO2, has to be eliminated. If the kidney can't eliminate this properly, then it will accumulate in the joints, and that will cause inflammation. You will have your arthritis. Then from the gastrointestinal tract, the undigested materials from the GIT has to be eliminated also through your feces. That's why if you can take in toxins, for example, you have eaten something contaminated food, what will happen? You will have loose bowel movement, right? Because the body has to eliminate the toxins through your feces. And the fastest elimination is through your feces. And so you'll have loose bowel movement. So what happens? Loose bowel movement is not normal, right? So you can become dehydrated with loose bowel movement. So what happens? You have to correct the dehydration. So that's why you will have to drink hydrite, for example, oral electrolytes. That is the fastest because you don't need to go to the hospital. Okay? So, and the undigested materials also has to go out through the feces. And the liver also is a filter of usually drugs and chemicals that are ingested. It will eliminate the extra antibiotics, anti-inflammatory that you take in. It will through the bile and then through the feces. That's why, in cancer patients, some patients, they undergo chemotherapy, right? And that is toxic. So it will accumulate inside the liver. You notice that after a while, the individual will get sick again because these extra drugs, anti-cancer drugs, will accumulate in the liver and the body doesn't need them anymore. That's why you need to take them out from the body. You have to detoxification. These body functions also has to be regulated. And one method is through the nervous system. And the nervous system, you have three parts: the sensory, central, and the motor. And you also have your autonomics. The sensory, that is the input, right? Touch, for example, vision, hearing, detects the state of the body or surroundings. That's why if you have hard of hearing, you will easily fall. The individual will easily fall. Why? Because you cannot detect right away the state of your surroundings. So if you are hard of hearing, you have to be extra careful where you step, where you are going. And then from the sensory, for example, touch, this will be integrated into the central portion of the brain. The central integrative portion is composed of your brain and spinal cord. This can store information and generate thoughts. And this is where your ambitions are made. So it will determine the reactions of the body. And this will respond according to the sensations that the sensory portion will create in the central integrative portion of your brain. That is your brain and spinal cord. So with the touch of sensation of touch, it will go to the central portion, to the brain, and then the brain will dictate. And it is the motor out portion that will carry out the response. For example, the central portion, the brain, will say, step down. And so the body, the limbs will step down the stairs like that. And it is the motor portion that will carry it out. And another nervous regulation is your autonomics from the adrenal medulla. Your adrenals is composed of your cortex and your medulla. Okay, your cortex has different layers. Your medulla has only one layer, and your medulla, adrenal medulla, will produce your epinephrine and norepinephrine. And this operates in a subconscious level and will control many of the functions of the internal organs, including the activity of the heart, GIT movement, gland secretions. Okay? Like, for example, your epinephrine, it will help you to go on a flight or fight movement. So it will determine if you will have to fight or you will have to run away, flight. Okay? This is from your adrenal medulla. So this is one way your nervous system to regulate your homeostasis, to maintain your homeostasis. And in the course, in our journey towards the first year medicine, you will be discussing all this in details. What I am telling you now only is an overview of what will the body do to maintain homeostasis. Another one that regulates, another system that regulates the body functions or to maintain the homeostasis is your hormones, hormonal system, your endocrine glands. For example, your pancreas, it will produce, the beta cells will produce insulin, okay? And so your insulin, what will happen to, what is the action of your insulin? It will help in the journey, in the entry of glucose into the cells so that the glucose can be utilized by the cells to produce energy. Okay? Another way to maintain homeostasis is to protect the body through your immune system and your integumentary system. The immune system provides a mechanism for the body to distinguish its own cells from foreign substances. and it will destroy the invader by phagocytosis or by producing sensitized lymphocytes or specialized protein that either destroy or neutralize the invader. That's why your immune system is very important. And the most effective way to increase your immune system is sleep. You have to sleep properly. That's why, as medical students, since you have so many things to read, your number of hours sleeping will be diminished, right? So your normal 6 to 7 hours sleep will only be 3, 4, like that during the week. That is why during the weekend, when you have no classes, you sleep. Recover your sleep to maintain the immune system, especially nowadays when we are in COVID days. Your immune system is very important. It is very important, needed to protect you from COVID, because COVID its effect is inflammatory. And there is a new finding with COVID that it will form a film in the alveolar area. The inflammation that it causes is different from the normal inflammation. For example, you bump your knee, so you have an abrasion, right? Because you played basketball. So, or you rode on a bicycle and then you had an accident. So, for example, you had abrasions on your knees. So there is an inflammation that will go on with that. So your knee will be painful. It will become red. The following day, there is already a yellow film over the abrasion. That is an inflammation. But with COVID nowadays, what they're finding is that inside the alveoli, there is a film formation. Just like gelatin, that is because of your hyaluronic acid. So you can just imagine if there is a film that will cover the alveolar area where the exchange of your carbon dioxide and oxygen takes place. So the intubation that we do to the patients, wala pala. It's of no use. Because of this formation, what we need is a very fast mucolytic. We need fast-acting mucolytic, like Lagundi. Lagundi is a product of research. So that film will be dissolved and it will go out through the mouth. It will be expelled. And so the patient can breathe. Okay? And your immune system also enables the individual to distinguish its own cells from foreign substances. So what will the individual do? It will phagocytose. It will eat up the foreign body, or it will neutralize the invader. That is how your immune system will do it. And in the second year, in your immune pathology, you will already discuss imbalances of your immune system. So if there is an imbalance, there is already a disease. Disease. Now, if you are not sick, you are at ease, right? If you are sick, you are not at ease. So you are disease. Huh? So that is disease. Okay? So in your pathology, what you'll be discussing there are all disease. Huh? And you have to be able to explain why this disease is happening. That's why you will have to master your physiology so that you can pass your pathology. And it has to be automaticity level. Hindi pwedeng memorize lang. No. You have to digest and you have to integrate the knowledge into your system until it will reach the level of automaticity. Okay? Another protection of the body to maintain the homeostasis is integumentary, your skin and tegumentary system, your skin and your appendages, your nails, hair, that will cover your body. And the skin and your appendages, your glands, they will protect the deeper tissues and organs of the body. And these are important for digestion and also for excretion of wastes. For example, if an individual had been taking so many medicines, that's why you notice that nowadays the pharmacy is very, very particular on the prescription of the doctor. You are not allowed to buy antibiotics nowadays without prescription. You notice that? Because Filipinos, they tend to abuse the antibiotics. So what will happen if you keep on taking antibiotics? Kaunting colds, even if antibiotic is not needed because it is viral infection, we'll really buy antibiotics. So what will happen? The antibiotics will accumulate in the body. And where will it stay in the body? In the liver, because the liver is a filter of the body. And so, what happens to your liver? Eventually, your liver will give way. So you'll just notice that there will already be tumor in your liver, or your liver has already transformed into fatty liver, and then cirrhosis. That. So it progresses to cirrhosis. They are all toxic elements. The antibiotic that you take in to help you overcome the infection now will become toxins. So it has to be removed from the body, especially from the liver. How do you do that? So then, in your clinical years, you will have your pharmacology subject. So you will be taught how to detoxify your body. Although, because many would like to make money. So because Philippine medicine is herbal based medicine. And so many would like money to make money. So they make lots of concoction, right? You have your MX3, for example, like that, made out of mangosteen, and then they make a concoction out of that. But the thing is, their tendency is to add other herbs, huh, until it will reach 10 types of herbs in one sachet, 12 types of herbs. So your purpose is being defeated. Why? Because your kidney will get over instead only one herb, and it can do its action. Guys, can you hear me?
Yes po.
Not hear me?
Yes, Doc, we can hear you.
Insigne, can you hear me?
Doc, I can hear you clearly, but choppy, Doc.
Yeah, kaya nga.
Some of your words are not understand, Doc.
Yes. Because my signal now is not stable, unstable. Ooh, 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 ooh. How about now?
Okay na, Doc. Okay na, Doc.
Na? Mark Kevin, can you
Yes,
hear
Doc.
me? Hallelujah. Hmm? You do this. You do this if you can hear me. Thumbs up, hallelujah, if you can hear me. Very good. Okay, we'll continue. So you have to detoxify, but do not use plenty of herbs at the same time because your kidneys will be overwhelmed. Makurat, no? Makurat siya. The kidney could not cope up. So for example, you would like to use ginger as anti-inflammatory because ginger is good, and also turmeric. Yun lang. You just use turmeric or ginger. Do not add other herbs until it will reach 12 types of herbs. So especially that most of these herbs they are using are not has not been researched. But you know, Lagundi has been researched by Dr. Kaputol yata yan. The doctor from Ormo. He was doing the research of Lagundi for 10 years. Imagine. So the Lagundi tablets now that you are using is really a product of research. It is not a fly by night. Huh? Hindi yan fly by night. And it was funded by the Department of Health. So, okay na. Another way to maintain homeostasis is reproduction. It helps homeostasis by generating new beings to take the place of those that have died or are dying. Especially with COVID nowadays, oh my God. The number of people dying is overwhelming. That's why, and it is not easy to get sick with COVID. It is not easy. Because, for example, I have a niece. She had COVID during the early part of the year when COVID started around March. She stayed in the hospital for 59 days before she was discharged. And then the nurse said she could not go home yet because this test has still to be repeated. So she said, oh my God, imagine. And then afterwards, usually they will have heart problems after that. See? Because the heart will be affected. You see, the lungs and the heart are neighbors, right? Around 2 inches lang siguro, the difference. They are neighbors. So whatever is the problem in the lungs, the heart will easily be affected. Diba? And so you have to have another medicine. So it's very expensive. She spent 900,000. Yes. Imagine. So that's why you have to be careful. With COVID, do not get yourself infected with COVID. How else do you maintain your immune system? Through your vitamin C. You cannot hear me? Can you hear me, Ian Von Clifford? Okay, thank you. So you also have control systems of the body, because controls has to be there. Just like your car, you have your controls, you have your brake, okay? Genetic control systems. Since biochemistry and physiology is very integrated, so we decided that this chapter on genetics, since it will be discussed by Dr. Monsanto, then it will be discussed in biochemistry. So we will not discuss the genetics in physiology. Okay? So that is chapter 3. Other control is within the organs, to control the functions of the individual parts of the organs, and then interrelationships. Each organ takes care of each other. Okay, so that is how you maintain the homeostasis. Some important generalizations about homeostatic control systems. One is stability of an internal environment variable is achieved by balancing the inputs and the outputs. It is not the absolute magnitudes of the inputs and outputs that matter, but the balance between them. Just like you nowadays, diba, COVID days, so the tendency is we eat a lot because we are staying at home. Stay at home. And what do you do at home? Your tendency is you eat a lot. Huh? And the tendency of your mother is to cook plenty of food, different types of delicious foods, because maybe she has not practiced her culinary for the nth time because she is working. Now that she is stay at home, working at home, she has time to cook. And so your tendency is to eat a lot. What is the effect? You gain weight. If you do not put out the energy that is being given by the food. Okay, so with intake of the food, you have to do exercise so that the energy output should be balanced so that you will not gain weight. Okay? Energy input should balance with energy output. Okay? So that you will not gain weight. You will maintain your weight. And so your new clothes can still be used even with the COVID days. Like here, a person who is in complete water balance drinks 2 liters of water. And this, your body will automatically set into motion different processes. Like, for example, you will urinate a lot. You'll be sweating a lot, or you defecate just to excrete the 2 liters of water, because 2 liters is already an excess because the person is in normal water balance. But if the person is dehydrated, it would be another matter. Okay? But since the person is in complete water balance, so that means the 2 liters that he took in is already excess, and that will alter the homeostatic balance. So it has to be eliminated from the body. Maintain the balance, your homeostasis. Another, a negative feedback system. A change in the variable being regulated brings about responses that tend to move the variable in the direction opposite the original change. Okay? For example, the room temperature, okay, will increase. So it would be hot, okay, just like during summer. And so what will the body do? It will increase the heat loss from the body. So what will you do to decrease the body temperature? What will the body do? It will, for example, you cannot hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Chang, can you hear me?
Yes, Doc.
Okay. So we'll start. The temperature of the room. It's summer, right? But then you have an aircon in your room. So the tendency is the room temperature is decreased, right? So what will happen to the heat of the body? It will increase loss like that. So you will feel the cold because the temperature is decreased in your room. So what will the body do? It will curl up. It will shiver, especially if you're asleep and then you didn't have a blanket on. And the blood vessels of the skin will constrict to minimize the heat loss. Okay? And in shivering, there is also increased heat production. So with increased heat production, then the return of the body temperature towards the original value will take place. Okay? Yeah. And then with negative feedback, the tendency of the initial direction of the change in the variable is opposite, right? But with homeostasis, this will go back slowly until it will become normal again. Just like, for example, in your thyroid hormone. What is your thyroid hormone? T3, T4, right? Thyroxine, T3, T4. Where do you manufacture your thyroid hormone? In your thyroid gland, okay? Now, what regulates your thyroid gland? The pituitary. The pituitary will produce your thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH. What stimulates TSH? From the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus will secrete thyroid hormone releasing hormone, and it will stimulate the pituitary to produce thyroid stimulating hormone. The TSH will go into the thyroid gland. Okay, it will dictate, produce more thyroid hormone. Once the thyroid hormone is there, it will be released into the body and it will go to the target tissues. If there is already enough of your thyroid hormone, your TSH will stop producing. This because this thyroid hormone itself will exert a negative feedback on the hypothalamus and into the pituitary. It will dictate them stop producing thyroid hormone because we have enough already. Okay, so that is an example of your negative feedback. Okay, very concrete example. And your thyroid will be discussed in more detail when you reach the endocrine system. The homeostatic control systems cannot maintain complete constancy because we are a living being. So we are not like, these concrete materials that if you say this is the constant for this material, so yan talaga ang constant. But since we are a living being, the maintenance of the homeostasis is, it varies, variable, okay? So it cannot maintain complete constancy of any given feature of the environment. Therefore, any regulated variable will have a more or less narrow range of normal values. So you can just say, this one is the normal range. You cannot really say that the normal value of oxygen is 40. No, because we are a living being. And maintenance of the homeostasis is variable because of the variable conditions of the environment. So we will have to say we have a normal range, 35 to 45 millimeters of mercury. That's why you notice that when you do your CBC, for example, CBC, and then your WBC, it will not say there that your WBC is really 10. No, there is a normal range, right? But for example, your WBC now is 5. Is that a good value? And your normal range is 10 to 8, 9, 10, like that. How about the 5? Is that a normal value? That is normal, but lower normal. You have to maintain at least 7 for a very good immune system. Because 5 is lower normal. Lalo na pag 4, mahina na yung immune system mo. So that is the level of patients undergoing chemotherapy. So you have to watch out for your WBC. That is the window. We use that as the window for your immune system with your CBC. Dapat 7 or 8 talaga yung value mo. Now, here, in this what do you call this illustration, you notice that it says there, oxygen. Oh, I'm sorry. Oxygen is 40. Normal range is 35 to 45. Carbon dioxide is 40. Normal range is 35 to 45. So it's really like that, okay? Normal value. That's what I'm doing. Yan. Glucose is 85, 75 to 95. Or yung iba, up to 100. It depends on the reagent that they use. You see, the body temperature, the normal is 37, but you cannot really say it's really 37. It has to be 36.5 to 37.3, like that. And the acid-base balance, your blood, the pH of your blood should be 7.4. But you cannot really say it's really 7.4 only, because you are a living being and it will vary. So 7.3 to 7.5, like that. There is an allowance, okay? But if your pH is already below 7.3, then you're already acidic. Okay, your blood is already acidic. You have to do something about that. Turn that into alkaline, because the value, the normal value, the normal value is 7.3 to 7.5. How do you make your acidic pH alkaline? How? You drink calamansi juice without sugar, and it will make your blood alkaline. Very practical, right? You don't need so many, just, everything is, God has already provided us. So example is your calamansi. Because if you use lemon, it's expensive, whereas your calamansi is very cheap. So use your calamansi. 1 calamansi in 1 glass of water. Take out the seeds. Use the juice only. And it will alkalinize your blood within the next 12 to 24 hours. Yes, that is practical, right? Yeah. Excuse me, huh? A break. I'm unstable. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. You see, this one is an example. The set point of some variables regulated by homeostatic control systems can be reset physiologically, raised or lowered. You see? For example, your body temperature, 37 degrees, has been suddenly raised to a high value. So what will the body do? It will go into chills. Why chills? For vasoconstriction. Then you have your goosebumps, right? Piloerection, the epinephrine secretion, because that's stress. Then you shiver. So what is the result? The crisis then will be overcome. So there is sweating, vasodilation, and then the set point will suddenly be reduced. So the body temperature will be back to normal. Okay? It is not always possible for homeostatic control systems to maintain constancy in every vary in response to an environmental challenge. There is a hierarchy of importance. So the variables may be altered markedly to maintain others within the normal range. Just like this example, your cardiac output, for example, is lowered. So what happens to the blood flow to the kidneys? It will be lowered also. So the reabsorption also is lower. Reabsorption of water by the kidneys is lowered. So there is the tendency water retention, okay? So total body water is increased. But then the patient will develop edema. But this is of lesser importance because your aim is to increase the cardiac output so that there will be enough blood supply to the tissues. Okay? So in spite of the edema, never mind the edema for the meantime, because the cardiac output has also increased. And this is more important. You can treat the edema later on. Okay? So usually this is in the case of congestive heart failure. In congestive heart failure, you notice that patients with congestive heart failure, they have edema in the feet, pedal edema, okay? That is of lesser importance because what is important is to increase the cardiac output so that there will be blood flow to the systemic circulation, to the body, so that the body can recover. Once there is blood supply, then the cells can manufacture energy. Okay? So these are the typical concentrations in mammalian cells and in plasma. In the cytosol, it means inside the cell, potassium is 139 millimolar. Sodium is only 12. And amino acids in proteins is 138. chloride is only 4. While in the blood, the sodium is plenty, 145. Inside the cell, it's only 12. You notice? Then the chloride outside the cell is at 116. It's only 4 inside the cell. And the bicarbonates is more outside in the blood than inside. Okay? And magnesium is more outside than inside. And also calcium. So you will have to memorize these values, okay? Because this will be used when you manage your patients later on. And I have a suggestion for you that every time you, because your dream is to become physicians, right? How do you achieve that dream? You study hard by reading so much, so many things. And then, so I suggest that during exams, you pretend you're already taking the board exam so that you will really work out for your scores, okay? And you imagine your score to be always 100. Because if it is 100, that means pag mag-slide yan, at least nandito pa yan sa 80, 90, 85, passing. Okay, passing pa. Get me? Yeah. Don't worry with the PowerPoint slides. I will give a copy to your president, and then the president will be the one to distribute them to you. This is the end of the chapter. Would you like to go farther? Or would you like to have an early lunch? What? What is the comfort of the class?
Early lunch.
Huh? Early lunch?
Doc, my question kanina, ang
Yes.
isang student, if it is advisable to take calamansi juice every day daw.
Yes. Yes. In fact, if you have a hyperacidity in the morning, you get 1 glass of water, room temperature or warm. Then you get 1 calamansi, and then juice it without seeds. Then the juice you add in the water with no sugar, because sugar will make the juice acidic. So walang ano. Then you drink it before breakfast. Then sabi ng, I have a cousin who is very bright. We call, patients who are hard-headed, bright face. So I told her, if you will believe me, I will tell you what to do with your hyperacidity in the morning. So she said,